Hey everybody, welcome back to Going Down the Road with Randy. Tonight in my 7th episode, we are finally going to Vietnam. I know, it's been a while. What can I say? I lost my muse and I'm not entirely certain that I've yet to find it. But here goes. I've been both dreading and looking forward to the prospect of describing Vietnam. By the time we decided to go, we were seasoned travelers with almost 18 continuous months of being on the road under our boots. Vietnam would be our 7th country, and we had owned vehicles in 2 of them. But travel in Vietnam, at least in early 1991, for us low-budget travelers, is challenging and hard, which means it's also rewarding. We have been lulled by the easy traveling in Thailand, and it's time to get back on the hard road, but not without some trepidation. We've spent weeks, it seems, arranging tickets to Vietnam. One factor is the increased demand due to the recent reopening of the country to independent travel, a first since the end of the war. Another is that we want to fly on Thai Airways, not Air Vietnam, also known as Scare Vietnam by those in the know. We want to maximize the 30 days that we will be allowed in the country. We intend to fly into Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon, and travel through both North and South Vietnam to exit in Hanoi, a distance of over 1,000 miles if we go the most direct route. Of course, the geographical differentiation between North and South Vietnam is no longer necessary. It's all just Vietnam now. We rarely follow a direct route. Our traveling party consists of me, Greta, AJ, and Canadian Dave, the same one with the van that we first met in Airlie Beach in Australia. He's traveling solo now. Actually, I'm pretty sure he had a thing for Greta, but then that's just a feeling I had. Remember when I said in episode 3 that we had to get back to Bangkok to sort out loose ends before we fly to Vietnam in less than 3 days? Yeah, we had more like a day. We get to Bangkok at about noon on the 6th, and our flight to Vietnam leaves on the morning of the 8th. We have to drop off film, go to American Express for mail and money, pick up our Vietnam visas and travel permit, and go for final fittings on our tailor-made suits. Plus, we still needed to shop for last-minute essential items. Somehow, we managed to do all of that and meet AJ and Dave and Trish, the hot new item, for dinner. But we make it an early night because there's still more to do tomorrow. The next day, we find that we cannot make calls from the Khao San post office, and we have to go to the general post office and use the USA direct line. I make calls to Mom and Dad and tell them that we're going to be off the radar for the next month in Vietnam. Due to U.S. trade sanctions, there is no direct communication allowed between the United States and Vietnam. Then it's off to the Lao Airways office to purchase our Hanoi, Vietnam to Vientiane, Laos return plane tickets. We also stop at our travel agent, Tab Tim, and make preliminary inquiries about flights to India and then Nepal for when we come back from Thailand. We also pick up film, but can't mail it back, so we'll have to rent a locker here at the Green Guest House for a month. We get it all sorted out and packed, and we meet Michael, the Israeli guy, after dinner for tons of last-minute information on Vietnam. He just got back 2 days ago. That's how it was before the internet made access to collective knowledge easy and available. You had to go find people who would get you the information you need. We consume our weight in Singha beer and crash. Saturday, February 8th, 1991. Payment must be made today. We are packed up and ready when the taxi arrives at 7:30 to take us to the airport. I'm severely hungover, and I'm not the only one. Our traveling party is green around the gills this morning. The taxi driver is a true blue maniac and weaves in and out of traffic, somehow delivering us unscathed in front of the international terminal at 8 a.m. Inside the airport, pandemonium reigns. People everywhere. Where in the hell were they all going? We find our line and wait in it to check in and pay the 200 baht exit fee. After waiting in that line, we go to passport control to contend with yet another longer and even slower moving line. Soon we emerge from this purgatory into the departure area's heaven. We get some much-needed Bloody Marys and a snack, while we sort out last-minute messages and postcards until it is time to board. One last security check, and we board the plane, an Airbus 300, and it is very plush indeed. We take off only about 10 minutes late. I'm still very hungover, and the ascent angle coming out of Bangkok is so steep, and I need water. My needs are soon met by the friendly hostesses. They serve up a delicious fish and rice lunch, complete with savory asparagus and bread rolls. I have a chilled glass of white wine as well, which they keep full. I have another Bloody Mary and a nice cold water. I knew I was in heaven when the steward comes down the aisle bearing a bottle of Remy Martin cognac. I feel the plane begin its descent, my prayers for a stiff headwind unanswered. I love Thai Airlines. All this luxury on a less than 2-hour flight. I felt like I was flying first class. I look down and see my first glimpse of Viet Nam. It looks very flat and mostly green, with irregular patches of brown earth tossed in. Bomb craters or areas sprayed with Agent Orange. Who knows? I'm a child of the 60s, with Walter Cronkite at our nightly dinner table, providing us the latest body counts. I remember the names of the cities. I wonder what this strange new world will be like. Will the people hate us as Americans? We glide into Tan Son Nhut International Airport, and as we taxi to a spot on the tarmac, I look back and see a Malaysian Airlines flight landing right behind us, and another Vietnam Airlines flight right behind them. Ancient buses of indeterminate make lumber up to the plane and greet us at the bottom of the ladder. I soon learned that most of the buses in Vietnam are 1950s-era Renaults. The buses take us to the terminal, where it becomes apparent that the complex entry-exit cards and customs declaration forms that we were given on the plane are outdated, and so we spend lots of time filling out more forms. When they check our passports, they refuse to actually stamp inside it, only stamping our visas and exit cards. We also have to show our travel permit or be part of an organized tour group. Our travel permit requires us to list 10 places where we will be allowed to sleep during our 30-day stay. We list Ho Chi Minh City, formerly known as Saigon, Can Tho, Dalat, Nha Trang, Quy Nhon, Da Nang, Hue, Haiphong, and Hanoi. We couldn't come up with a 10th one, and we weren't entirely sure that we'd even get to all the 9 that we did list. We wait and wait until our bags finally appear, and then we get to negotiate customs, and everything goes through their ancient, powerful, and not safe for film X-ray machines. You must remember this was in the early 1990s, and back then if you wanted to take a picture, you had to first have a camera and load it with film. Film came in various sizes for various cameras, but we were using 35mm color slide film, which had 36 shots or exposures on a roll. Once you took a picture, you advanced the film to take the next shot. You had 36 pictures on a roll of film, and that roll was not inexpensive to either buy or develop. Oh, and you had to wait for the film to be developed before you could see how your picture turned out. Airport baggage X-ray machines degraded photographic film. We hope ours will be okay. We all meet outside, where we run the gauntlet and check on a taxi into town. All the drivers say $10 US. A few go down to $8, but we've been told the going rate is $4. We sit down and wait. Same old deal. It drives the drivers crazy if you just sit and wait. We finally go to walk out of the airport and get a cab outside, and we get a guy who offers to take us to the Vien Dong Hotel on Pham Nhu Lao Street for only $5 US. $1 extra because it's New Year's. It's a 20-minute drive through the crumbling city, which looks like a war zone. All the old stuff is crumbling. The infrastructure has not been maintained. The city has a lost feel to it. We are deposited in front of the hotel where rooms here are $7 US. We still haven't got any local currency, the dong, yet, but the rate at the airport was 10,700 dong to the dollar. We get a room for the four of us for $10. It's a huge space with chairs, tables, drawers, very comfy. We settle in and then go up to the roof of the 8-story building to check out the view and take some photos. We go down to the room again and crash out. By 5, we were up again and go down the street to the Prince restaurant to change money. The rate here is 11,500 dong to the dollar. As an aside, the biggest banknote in the country is 5,000 dong, which is less than 50 cents. So you can imagine the size of the stack when you change even $20. Also, a half-liter bottle of Stolichnaya vodka costs 20,000 dong. So, $1.65. The other thing to be aware of is you don't want to go to the market or the villages with 5,000 dong notes. They will not have change, even if they do have change. You want small money, small bills, and sometimes small money is hard to find. We eat dinner and have the first of many Huda beers, which the label claims is brewed in Hue with Danish technology. We get a meal and a beer for about $1 or so. We head back to the hotel and meet Dom, the cyclo driver, who wants to take us to the Apocalypse Now bar, where we've been told to find Ali, and he will sell us joints for 10 cents each. So we haggle with the cyclo drivers until we finally get one to take us for 3,000 dong. The first offer was 10,000. So you can see why we always haggle heavily when bargaining for transportation. That's less than a third of the original asking price. Oh, and never, ever, ever get on any transportation without first agreeing on a price, or you will be sorry. We alight at the Apocalypse Now bar, but nothing is happening. We do find Ali and buy 10 joints for 20,000 dong. Apparently the prices have gone up, but still not bad. The beers are 9,000 dong for 333 beer, which is too much. So we wander down the street and buy large bottles of Saigon beer for 7,000. Unfortunately, it tastes like piss. But we sit at the curbside cafe stall opposite the Saigon Hotel and drink it anyway. AJ and I want to smoke a doobie, so we go back to the bar while Greta and Dave check things out. By the time they get back, we've already had 1 beer and 2 mind-blowing joints. The place begins to fill up and the music starts rocking. We meet the 3 people we talked to in Kanchanaburi, the 2 Aussies and John the American. We start drinking fairly heavily. We are most completely sold a Roman candle that we absolutely do not need for 6,000 dong by a 7-year-old salesman. He was awesome. The bar is very strange. It seems to host a healthy mix of tourists, whores, expats, and other assorted weirdos. Lots of beggars, most of them little kids. An old Russian-looking dude appears to be bargaining with some of the kids, and it doesn't look good. The 5 of us leave at about 1 a.m. We argue with the cyclo drivers and finally agree on a price. Halfway home, of course, one decides to change his mind, so AJ and Dave get off and walk. This is not uncommon, and the only thing for it is to get off, and the driver gets nothing. Finally, we also get off and join them. We walk all the way back to the hotel through deserted streets. At one point, we are accosted by a group of young kids, like 8 years old, who surround us and then expand a large map in front of our faces and ask if we want to buy a map. While we are dealing with this, the others go around behind us and steal a tripod attached to AJ's backpack. Why does AJ have a tripod attached to his backpack? That I do not know. We yell at them and they scurry off, only to reappear at the corner of the next block, and this time they are offering to sell us a tripod. We grab the tripod from them and chase them down the street. I think they were truly afraid of the 4 drunk foreigners running after them. We go back to the hotel and fire up a doob to settle down before bed. Sunday, February 9th. Good morning, Vietnam! Hungover again. We sleep in until 11 and then order up coffee and tea at the little street stall outside the hotel. We sit on tiny little stools, sipping coffee and drinking in the early afternoon bustle. Coffee here is delicious and is served with the grounds in a metal cup with a screen on top of a glass with the water dripping through it. Really excellent. We get a fresh baguette filled with eggs and veggies for 4,000 dong, 33 cents. Coffee is 1,500 dong. We're out and about by about 1, so not too bad. We have the usual hassle with the Cyclo drivers, but get a ride out to Levan Diet Temple, where the general of that name and his wife are buried. We make our way past the lines of cripples and beggars and enter the smoke-filled interior of the temple, where people are burning vast amounts of incense and their eyes are watering. We try our fortunes by shaking a can filled with sticks with numbers written on them. You shake the can until a stick flies out, and then you get the number and go to the place where there are pigeonholes filled with sheets, and you get a sheet of paper with your number. A man there translated mine for me, and it wasn't so good. It said, "This year I will be sick, and I won't have any money, but that I have a good boss who takes care of me." So I got that going for me. Only I do not actually have a boss, good or otherwise, so I hope I don't get sick. We seem to have attracted some kids who walk with us, and we walk all the way to the Emperor of Jade Pagoda, which turns out to be another smoke-filled temple and full of these very big and threatening statues of Chinese gods. There's a separate section for hell. We take some pictures and then set off to find the military museum across from the zoo, and we do. There is a Russian T-54 tank and a U.S. F-4A Phantom jet. There are artillery pieces, rockets, associated instruments of destruction, and that's just the outside. Inside are all the smaller instruments of destruction and photos, etc., all presided over by a giant white bust of Ho Chi Minh. Our next destination is a couple of blocks down. The former U.S. Embassy, where on April 30th, 1975, the U.S. evacuated their personnel. It is now deserted and crumbling. We take a few photos, but are distracted by dragons dancing in the street across the way. We wander over to watch the New Year's celebration for a while. A guy shimmies up a bamboo pole and does some amazing acrobatics on top. The finale is a huge string of firecrackers. We stop for another cup of that wonderful coffee before continuing down and turning right onto Le Loire Boulevard behind the National Theater. We come out with the Hotel Continental on the right and the Caravel on the left. The traffic consists of few cars, but thousands of bikes and motorcycles and cyclos. This is supposed to be the block where you can buy good maps. I can't get a price I like, so I'll wait. We buy Laughing Cow cheese and baguettes, and we'll get an avocado later. We find Kathy in the number 6 kiosk on Winhui Street. She changes money for us, 12,000 dong for $50 or $100 bills, 11,900 for 20s or less. We change $50 and talk to Kathy and her sister, who is visiting from the States, about getting travel permits and renting cars, etc. When we left, it was getting dark, and we crossed over to the Rex Hotel because they had a sign for a souvenir shop, and we wanted to buy an embroidered Vietnamese flag patch. Well, they didn't have any patches, but they had beautiful lacquerware for very cheap prices. Boxes for $3 and vases for $25. Dave likes a lacquerware flute for $26. There are 4-part murals for $50 that are mind-blowing, and these are hotel prices. But we have to go. We cruise on down Le Loire to the big circle and then head down our street. We stop and buy some cold beers, good old Huda for 5,500 dong, from Prince, and then go up to the room for beers, joints, and sandwiches of cheese and avocado on fresh baguettes. Nice hot shower, relax, nap, and go eat at Prince. When we get back, we relax with a couple of joints before bedtime. Our first full day in Ho Chi Minh City. There were some incredibly hostile stares as well as the most friendly, smiling faces. As we walked, people, especially older ones, asked us to sit with them and have coffee or shots of some indeterminate firewater. All in all, it was a positive experience. Monday, February 10th, we get up early, like before 7, so that we can catch some of the New Year's ceremony. We have the usual hassle with the cyclo drivers, but find that by the time we get there, the ceremony will not begin for a while. So we wait around for a while, and the ceremony starts at about 8:30. Good thing we got up so damn early. Most of it is incomprehensible to us, but the rituals and costumes are interesting. There's supposed to be a popular opera, which begins at 11, but we haven't had anything to eat yet today, so we go get a pâté and baguette on the street, and stop at another place and get some coffee, and we're just about right. We walk to the Museum of American War Crimes, but it is closed for lunch and will open again at 1:30. We know that the Immigration Police Office is also closed for lunch, so we go shopping. It is, by the way, quite common for government and commercial offices to close for an hour for lunch, and if you look through the windows, you will often see the workers with their heads down on their desks, napping. We take a cyclo to Huenhui Street and change money, and then go up Le Hoa Street, buying things like old Vietnam War Zippo lighters with engravings on them for $3, while keeping an eye out for flag patches. We take a walk through the Central Market, where during the war executions took place, and finally make our way to the immigration police, arriving just as they open their doors. Unfortunately, the man there can't help us, as our visas were issued in conjunction with peace tours, so we have to go and get our registration stamp from them. It's not far away, so we hoof it over there and find out that it costs $8, and we need 2 passport photos, and it'll take a day to accomplish. We deal with the bureaucratic bullshit, and then walk down the street to the War Crimes Museum, only about 100 meters away. It costs 5,000 dong to get in. In the front yard are a couple of tanks and helicopters, some big field artillery pieces, and large bombs, each with a grandiose plaque with a propaganda explanation. Inside, we get down to the nitty-gritty. Pictures of USGIs with severed heads and body pieces. Pictures of pushing a suspected VC out of a helicopter, dragging one behind a truck, and more. Another building showed effects of chemical warfare and torture techniques. There are deformed fetuses in bottles and lots of gory pictures. All in all, not a pretty picture, but then very little about that war was pretty. We walk back to the hotel with a load of bread and cheese that we bought along the way. At one intersection, we see cages with dogs, monkeys, and snakes for sale to eat. We feast on bread and cheese sandwiches and beer and relax before going out to eat. We also buy a bottle of that $1.65 Stolichnaya. Needless to say, we go out a little late, have dinner at Prince, and then come back to play Yahtzee and drink vodka. The next day, unfortunately, we must get up early again because we've arranged to go on a trip to see the Cao Dai Temple and the tunnels of Cu Chi. So we're out by 8:30 to get our travel permits from Peace Tour, which makes us official to travel outside the city. We have a baguette and egg breakfast and several coffees before getting aboard the minivan. The drive through the countryside takes about 2.5 hours to the Cao Dai Temple, which is located in Tay Ninh province, and it is the Vatican of the Cao Dai religion. On the way, we pass the ghost-like outskirts of Saigon and enter extensive rice paddies. The buses we pass are jam-packed and have an ingenious gravity-feed cooling system, whereby water from a 55-gallon barrel on the roof flows down through a spigot located by the driver, who controls the flow of cooling water into the engine, which is then squirted out onto the road below. When the barrel is empty, it is refilled from roadside reservoirs, similar to the old locomotive watering stations in the Old West. No radiator is needed, and that is good because they all rusted out decades ago. We enter the Cao Dai compound at Tay Ninh and see tons of people all dressed in white robes, resembling the traditional Vietnamese ao dai dress. They pray at 6 a.m., noon, 6 p.m., and midnight. So we are just in time to see the noon service. We have a few minutes to walk around and take photos and talk to the monks before we slip off our shoes and are led to the balcony to view the ceremony. A small orchestra starts up, and the congregation files in, and they soon begin a rhythmic and haunting chant. As near as I can tell, this is the service, and it continues for the next 20 minutes. Cao Dai is a wild religion. It combines elements of Taoism, Christianity, Buddhism, and Islam, which may explain its popularity, as that pretty much covers all the bases here. Cao Dai is also in touch with the spirit world, and its saints include Sun Yat-sen, Victor Hugo, along with Buddha and Confucius, amongst others. Their symbol is the eye in a pyramid, and it looks remarkably similar to the one on the back of the American dollar bill. We get a good recording of the chanting, and we take our photos, and then we're off to the tunnels of Cu Chi. In Cu Chi, we're given a short lecture, and then we visit some of the tunnels. The lecture tells us that this area in the bend of the Saigon River was a VC stronghold and command center during the war. The extensive tunnel network was actually begun in the 1940s for use against the Japanese, and then the French. After the French were defeated, the U.S. came in and established a big base here, unknowingly placing it directly over part of the tunnel network. They never got the VC out of this area. The Viet Cong had command centers, hospitals, kitchens, and they all lived underground. Walking around the area, which is littered with huge bomb craters, and I feel sympathy for the U.S. soldiers who had to defend this area, and admiration for the VC who fought to keep it. In the tunnels, we looked at some of the meeting rooms, and then dropped down the hatch to the second of 3 levels. It was dark and small, and there's a line of us following a scurrying, seldom-seen guide. After about 10 or 15 minutes of this, we popped out of another hatch into the cool breeze and the sunlight. I've been told that these tunnels have been enlarged to accommodate fat Western tourists, and yet they're still plenty small enough for me. They offer to take us deeper into the tunnels if we want to go, but I've had quite enough of small dark spaces, so they offer to let us shoot some AK-47s. It is an outrageous US dollar for a 10-round magazine. I spent $20 and it's worth it. I tore up some dirt piles and banana leaves, I can tell you that. We drive back to Saigon, passing the packed buses along the way, and get back around dusk. AJ and I get dropped off at Nguyen Hue Street to exchange money at Kathy's and buy some weed from Ali. Unfortunately, Ali isn't there, but Dom is, and he says he'll get us some for $7,000 a bag, so we order 2. Then we walk back to the hotel, buying beers at Prince on the way. After showering and getting ready for dinner, we all go out looking for that place on Le Loire Street, but all we found is a big hole where they're constructing a major new hotel. We continue into the city center and find a place near the Palace Hotel. It wasn't very good, but it filled us up. We walked back through the dark, strange streets of Saigon, smoked joints, and play Yahtzee in our hotel. Wednesday, February 12th. Today we do what we should have done a long time ago. We rented bikes for 5,000 dong a day from Prince. And after breakfast, we all pedaled down to the Lao embassy to apply for visas. AJ and Dave don't have plane tickets yet, so they can't get one. We pay $5 extra to have them ready before 5 o'clock today. We ride back through the maelstrom of Saigon's mostly two-wheeled traffic to change into shorts and t-shirts and see more of the city. We ride west, deep into the heart of Cholon, looking for the war surplus market, but we never found it. We visit a couple of pagodas, and then we realize the market is not in Cholon at all, but only a few blocks from our hotel. Once we find the market, after several wrong turns and cycling along the seedy waterfront, it turns out to be a big disappointment. Only clothes, no hardware or lighters. We wander through, but we don't buy anything. On the way back to the hotel, I stop along Le Loire Street and buy a vintage Zippo for less than $3 with the inscription, "Freedom isn't free." Then we go down and pick up our visas with no hassle and return to the Viet Nam with beers, Huda from Prince, of course. AJ and Dave have already eaten, so we go and eat at Prince. It's still the best deal we've found, and then we come back to pack up. We've arranged a taxi to take us to the bus station at Muay Thai, the ungodly hour of 3:30 a.m., for the outrageous price of $10. Thursday, February 13th. The taxi that awaits us has to be one of the smallest cars I've ever seen. Somehow we all manage to get in with our backpacks, and the machine creeps along the deserted streets of a sleeping Saigon. No one is sleeping at the bus station, however, and we create quite a stir when we tumble out of the taxi like clowns from a clown car. Eager people point us to the window to buy tickets for the bus to Kanto in the Mekong Delta, which cost about $10,500, which is less than half the price of the daggone taxi ride. We find the bus and claim our seats and eat baguettes and drink tea waiting for the bus to go. It's supposed to leave at 4:30, but we inch out of the station at about 5:30. We begin freezing in the pre-dawn chill as the bus lumbers down the road. We're soon warmed up, however, as the bus stops dead. We've gone less than 20 kilometers before we break down. It looks like it's going to be a long, strange trip, as per usual. We hang out, waiting while they disassemble the engine, bit by bit. It seems to be a fuel problem of some sort. Another bus going to Kanto stops, and like rats deserting a sinking ship, we give up our seats to sit in the aisle on a little stool on the other bus. At least it's moving. The weird part is that we can see nothing of the countryside as we go out, because the stools are so small and we can't see out of the windows. Two women sitting next to us start eating what appears to be a hard-boiled egg, but we can soon see that there is a tiny bird inside, and they suck and crunch down two of them in quick succession. I almost vomit on the floorboard, but I can't because the floor is covered with people. We reach the first ferry crossing, and without seeing anything of the Mekong Delta, we are spirited across to continue the grueling ride. It's not long before we reach the second ferry crossing, on the other side of which is Kanto. At the bus depot there, we get a motorcycle cyclo to take us into town for 5,000 dong, and he drops us at the Hua Bien Hotel. Their rooms cost too much, so they recommend another place, the Q Long Hotel on Quang Tri Street. It's a little hard to find, and it is tucked well off the road, but they give us a decent room with a bath for 20,000 dong, our cheapest yet. We relax and blow a joint. We didn't like the stuff from Dom, and last night AJ and I rode down to see Ali and bought his entire stock of 9. We'll get 20 more later. The joints send us reeling, and we reel out onto the streets of Kanto. Maybe it's the paranoia from the weed, but I feel as if we were painted fluorescent green. Everyone stares at us. Some smiled, but mostly they just stare. We try to buy water at a few places, and finally are successful. We're also hungry, so we stop at a restaurant, but we can't understand the menu at all. It's so frustrating. We wander around and change some money at a jewelry shop, and then go see the old Khmer pagoda on the main street. The monk there lets us in and shows us around. Books with ancient Khmer writing and depictions of Angkor Wat are on the walls. We walk back to the hotel, stopping at roadside stall for noodles on the way. They're not bad either, but have some strange bits in them that I don't really want to know about. We're now very tired, but we have to go searching for water. The hotel sells 333 beer at the front desk for 7,000 dong. We get a lot of those, and I go out for baguettes. We come back and get more beer, and then realize that this hotel is a brothel, as many seem to be here in Vietnam. The Viet Nam is too. We spend the evening drinking beers and playing Yahtzee and Cosmic Wimp Out. Dave and AJ have met a young Vietnamese couple while they were out. They're students learning to be English teachers, and they want to meet us tomorrow to show us around town and talk to us and practice their English. Friday, February 14th. You would have known it is Valentine's Day by the action in this hotel last night. There was a brisk trade going on. In the middle of the night, someone was banging on our door and yelling in Vietnamese. Greta said, "Answer the door," and I got up and crossed the room before I thought to ask, "Who is it?" No one answered, but they knocked again and yelled more Vietnamese. I asked again, "Who is it?" more sharply this time. They went away. We woke kind of groggy, and we went to meet the two teachers at 9 o'clock. They are Sun and Tao. Their English was fantastic, and they go with us for coffee. And then took us to the market. The market is right by the river and sells everything. I have noticed that these people have a penchant for eating very small birds. Unfortunately, we have decided that we must return to Ho Chi Minh City today instead of following our original plan and going to Cao Dak. We simply don't have enough time to do it all. We'll go back to Saigon today and then go north to the mountain town of Dalat tomorrow. Sun and Tai escort us back to the hotel where we quickly pack. We exchange addresses, and I promise to send them English textbooks. They help us barter for a motorcycle with a small trailer attached and get all four of us with packs and all. A heavy load for 5,000 dong. We precariously negotiate the road directly to the ferry terminal, and as we stop by a bus, the bike falls over and we all spill into the street. We pick ourselves up off the pavement and try to right the bike, but find that the yoke which joins it to the trailer is bent. We felt bad and gave the driver an extra 5,000 dong to fix it. We board a Dodge van, circa 1974, for the trip to Saigon for 12,000 dong. There's a woman on the bus who's Vietnamese and lives in Denver. She's visiting relatives here for the first time in 16 years. She proves to be very helpful translating during the journey. It is typical Vietnamese transport. Crushed in the back of the van, which seems is never full because every time you turn around there's a new face pushing in. We repeat the 2 ferry crossings and drive northwards through limitless expanses of rice fields to reach Saigon at about 5:30. There we pile into 2 motorcycles to go to town, and after a wild ride through rush hour traffic with a demonic driver, we are once again deposited into 2 rooms at the Viet Nam Hotel. We call and get reservations at Maxim's at 9, and settle in with some cold hoodas and a doobie. Maxim's is overpriced and overrated, but we kind of knew that going in. It's like getting a Singapore sling at Raffles in Singapore. It's what you do when you're there. In addition to the food, they encourage patrons to leave with a girl. We just ate and left. The next morning, we're up early and zooming away to the northern bus station. We pass people training for tomorrow's marathon and all the peasants doing early business. A man pushes a cart steaming with fresh ice. We haggle at the station and get a minibus to Dalat for 400,000 dong. $35 or so. Not too bad for 4 people, but there's no way that we can deal with getting a public bus today. So we all pile in luxury, and we each get a bench seat. Dave promptly crashes out and doesn't wake up for the whole journey. Greta sleeps a lot as well. I lay down but can't sleep. I feel like I'm going to miss something. The countryside we pass is typical Vietnam, rural, green, and beautiful. As the day winds on, we get higher and higher in the mountains, and just before we get to Dalat at about 1 o'clock, the jungle thins out, and we're driving through pine forest, studded with the occasional opulent villa. I wonder who owns them now. We pull into the Mimosa Hotel, which has been recommended to us by Michael and Kim, but they want $7, so we go down the street and find a room for 5. And we get all settled in before they come up to say, nope, we're Americans, so we're not allowed to stay there. We've been told that this might be the case, so we trot back to the assholes at Mimosa and get a couple of rooms there. God, this place is loud. We settle in, and then Dave and AJ go out and check out the lot. I've got the shits again, and I'm very tired and worn out, so I just hang back and read and take a nap. The boys come back with a bunch of strawberry wine and jam, and we drink all day and all night. This hotel is so fucking loud. We don't even go out for dinner. We just get baguettes on the street and eat them while we play Yahtzee. Sunday, February 16th. We sleep in. Sad but true. We leave this shitty hotel around noon. They actually bang on AJ and Dave's room at 8 o'clock to ask for their blanket. Unfortunately, we have to stay here tonight as well, so we take a walk around the town. We try to buy drugs at the pharmacy and take photos and have tacos on the steps by the market and change money. 11,800 to the dollar here. After tacos and a couple bottles of the ubiquitous strawberry wine, we wander down to the lake, and seeing the pedal-powered swans, we decide to go out and blow a bone. It's quite fun, except that everyone else on the lake keeps following us, so we don't have any privacy anywhere. We're well lit by the time we swan back to the dock, and it looks like rain. We have to take shelter in an abandoned gas station, Caltex, I think, on the way home. Once again, we are on a baguette diet, but tonight at least, we are the ones who make the noise. We start playing poker for small bills, 100 and 200 dong notes. Ho Chi Minh is featured prominently on the bills, and as we get drunk, we're screaming, "I see you're a hoe, and I raise you 2 hoes." Not quite politically correct, but we figured we fit right in noise-wise, and they probably didn't understand what we were screaming. We hoped. Monday, February 17th. We sleep in a little and get to the bus station at around 9:15, where they tell us that the last bus leaves to Nha Trang at 10. We find a seat on a van, but a guy says it's not going to Nha Trang. But then the person selling the ticket says it is, and charges us 18,000 dong, an exorbitant rate. It should be 12,000 max. We get on anyway because we don't want to spend any more time in Dalat. We bump and grind slowly down to Phan Rang Bay on this bus. The scenery is gorgeous coming down the mountain, but the road is really bumpy. It turns out that this bus does not go to Nha Trang, and it leaves us at Phan Rang and transfers us to a vintage circa 1940s Renault, which is supposed to be leaving soon for Nha Trang. The driver speaks a little English, and we get some decent seats up front, but this old bus is so slow. We stop every 200 meters all the way to Nha Trang. If it's not to pick somebody up, it's to let someone off or to fill up with water or some other goddamn thing. We finally make it into Nha Trang at about 5 p.m., 7 hours for a 5-hour journey, which is really not so bad for Vietnam. Actually, it's kind of great. Some of the kids at the places we stop are so happy to find out that we are American. No more Lien So, Lien So. So everyone called us. Lien So means Russian in Vietnamese, and people usually assume that we were Russian, as they were the only white foreigners they've seen for the last 20 years. And believe me, there's no love lost for the Russians in Vietnam. The one thing I learned to say in Vietnamese was, "I am an American." Toi la Noi Mai. I felt like a movie star in this country sometimes. In Nha Trang, we all get our own personal sea clothes from the bus station to the hotel. An ostentatious display, but we are tired. We're all in a line going through the streets of Nha Trang. We go to the Nha Nihi Hotel on Nguyen Binh Kim Street, where we get a beautiful suite for the 4 of us for $10 each. We get a room with air conditioning and a balcony connected to AJ and Dave's room, which has a sofa and chairs and a fridge. The bathroom has hot water, and we are psyched to settle in here for a while. There's 4 Brits next door, and we chat with them a while before going out to the very excellent La Canne restaurant, which has the best spring rolls and grilled tuna to be had anywhere. It's more than a little disconcerting, however, as there are a line of beggars patiently waiting for any leftover food outside of the restaurant, and I couldn't help thinking of them outside while we gorged ourselves on delicious food inside. We ordered an extra noodle and fried rice to give them on our way out. We fill up and get beers to go back to our room, and we begin playing poker for dong. $200 bet, $400 limit. It's great. We can play all night and lose and still not lose any real money. So we do. We find bottles of mulberry wine, nasty stuff, that we had brought down from Dalat because our beer isn't getting very cold. Graham from next door takes some of our money, but we don't care. and we go to bed drunk, stoned, and happy. Tuesday, February 8th. We get up before noon, just go down and eat baguettes and eggs and drink coffee, and then go wandering around the town. We meet this shy old guy on a bicycle who speaks really good English. It soon comes to find out he's shy because he worked with the Americans at Cam Bay from 1967 to 1975, and he was left behind when the U.S. pulled out. He spent 2 years in a re-education camp, and he has been persecuted. He can't find a job, nothing. He doesn't even want to be seen talking to us on the street, but he shows us to the beach. The beach is epically gorgeous, lined with coconuts and stretching for miles. The old guy shows us a place to change money where they're very rude, so we go to another place and get $11,800 for $100. On the way back to the beach, we pass little stands selling all sorts of medical supplies, from hemostats to bone chisels. I buy some condoms and a Russian thermometer. Then we go on a mission looking for a dive shop. We find the tourist bureau, but they offer no help. While Dave and AJ check out the ship Chandler Company, we check out the beach. The sand is wide and soft, and the water clear and warm. We have a swim, then meet the phenomena of Nha Trang, the crab woman. There are 2 women who go up and down the beach with crabs on one side and a little cooker on the other, slung on the ends of a pole carried over their shoulder. They can cook you shrimp or squid or cockles or snails and get you a crab for 3,000 dong. They'll even crack it open and lay it out for you and prepare a fine dipping sauce made from lime juice and pepper and salt. Most excellent. You can order beers for 8,000 dong from the beachfront cafe and have them brought to you by young boys running back and forth. We kick back and have a feast. Eventually the sun goes down, as it is wont to do at the end of the day in these latitudes, and we say goodbye to Miss Move Your Ass, as the crab lady likes to be called. What a classic place. I love it here. We wander back along the beach to a hotel, collecting beer along the way. Today we found the ultimate alcoholic buy, a 500 milliliter bottle of Stolichnaya for 5,000 dong. We buy 2 bottles, a full liter for 10,000, or about 85 cents. Ouch, my head. We shower and go to dinner at Khan, and then come back to spend the rest of the night playing poker and drinking beer in Stoli. Will we ever learn? I doubt it. Tomorrow we're going to rent bicycles and cruise around and check out the sights around Nha Trang. The next morning we don't wake too early, and Greta is not feeling well at all. According to my new Russian thermometer, she's got a fever of 38 degrees Celsius, which is over 100. We go down to meet Jimmy for breakfast. He's a former Vietnamese boat person who now lives in Utah. We met him on the beach yesterday. Greta goes running back up to the room. So she takes the day off while Dave, AJ, and I go out on the bikes. We pedal up to the Cham Towers just north of town, where a rude woman waves an M16 and yells at us because we don't want to pay 3,000 dongs to park our bicycles with her. Luckily, the gun isn't loaded. The Chams were an ethnic group of Austronesian origin who populated Champa, a contiguous territory of independent principalities in central and southern Vietnam from the 2nd to the mid-15th century. We pass the usual gauntlet of cripples and check out the tower. The large one has a representation of Shiva, but it is surrounded by many Chinese temple items. The braziers and burning incense are, of course, spewing smoke. Devout people in this country of any religion must have some really bad lungs. A few obligatory photos, and we're off a little way northward up a hill where the promontory of Hong Chung shelters a gorgeous and picturesque bay with a great view of Fairy Mountain. We drink a coconut here and relax in the shade in a reclining deck chair before continuing our journey back to and through Nha Trang, heading to Cao Da, the port town, to try to arrange a boat for tomorrow and find out about the availability of dive gear. It's a long pedal down to Cao Da, and we pass the huge airport with very little apparent airport activity. It's guarded by abandoned old pillboxes. We also passed numerous abandoned beachfront villas. This town is a developer's dream. I wonder what it'll be like 20 years from now. The boat bargaining was a bit of a joke, really. There are plenty of boats to be chartered, but we had some difficulty conveying the idea that we wanted to book them for tomorrow morning and not go right now. No dice on the dive gear to be bought or rented. In fact, these folks make their own masks from a section of tire inner tube and a piece of glass. Truly incredible. The people in Vietnam are not dumb or lazy. They're just poor. Too bad the government here is communist, because they'd make some vicious capitalists here. They could probably teach the Japanese a few tricks if given the chance. So we flow back up the stream of two-wheeled traffic with the continual turned heads, smiles, shouts, and stares, and went back to find Miss Move Your Ass on the beach. Warner, the dude from Oregon, and Jimmy are there, and we feast on crabs. The crab ladies make us a huge fresh shrimp salad. At one point, I've got this woman literally feeding me cockles while another pops shrimp in my mouth. They must think I'm a walking and rich eating machine. The more food they can get into me, the more money they get. I'm loving it. By the time I leave, I'm stuffed and don't even want to go out for dinner tonight. We start playing cards early and drinking Armenian brandy and Vietnamese vodka. Warner comes over, we all get baguettes and cheese. Thursday, February 20th. We're supposed to meet Jimmy for breakfast today, but I got especially shit-faced last night and couldn't deal with getting up. I spend the whole day lying around and reading Saigon. Greta is still ill too, so I look after her. We have breakfast downstairs and lunch too. AJ and Dave come back at about 3, and apparently they've had an excellent lunch at Jimmy's relative's house. I've clipped my toenails, done a few bits of laundry, and even washed my hat. AJ is motivated and goes down to see Miss Move Your Ass for crabs and meet the others to work on the boat trip for tomorrow. I can't say that we do much of anything. Really a wasted day, but it feels good to relax a little. We can't even motivate for dinner, so we do the usual and grab a baguette or two with cheese. I'm not quite sure, but I don't think we even play any poker that night. It was just a mellow evening of quiet relaxation and reading, which is good because we have to get up early tomorrow to go out to Bamboo Island, and Miss Move Your Ass is catering. It's Friday, February 21st, and we get up early and have a quick breakfast and rent bikes for the trip to Cao Da. We meet everybody and Miss Move Your Ass at the Haiyan Hotel at 8. She has all the stuff, 2 cases of beer and all the food we could ask for. We all go down to the docks, and after reassembling there, we hop on a rather large boat, which ferries us to Bamboo Island. We go around the point to the opposite side, where there is a large curving bay. Then the trouble, endemic for foreigners in Vietnam, starts. The locals who come out to the ferry are stuffed from the boat to the shore, see that we're Westerners, and they are forced to overcharge us. They want like 30,000 dong for each trip to shore. We tell them to piss off. We're happy to swim, and it still costs us 10,000 dong to get the food ashore. Once we have everything on the beach, they want to charge us for sitting on their mats, which we don't need, and for water, which we use to cook our food. It's really ridiculous. We tell Miss Move Your Ass that we will charge them for listening to our music, and per eye for staring at us. We go lay on the beach, and they sit around us in a semicircle staring. We all bake in the sun, read, swim, etc. They stare. We have our beach time, then Miss Move Your Ass says the food is ready, and we eat it. It's awful. Not the food. I feel so guilty. We're gorging ourselves on squid, grilled tuna, the ever-present baguettes, prawn salad, and crab. I'm so stuffed, and I feel I can't move, and there's still more. And the whole time, these people are watching us intently and trying to steal some beer. It goes on like that until we decide to leave late in the afternoon. The wind is picked up, and the sea is pretty choppy. We decide to walk 5 or 10 minutes to the calmer leeward side of the island and meet the boat over there instead of swimming to the boat. We get back to the mainland right around dark. We collect our bicycles and our belongings and pedal back towards the hotel. Everyone goes on ahead, but AJ, Warner, and I help Miss Move Your Ass carry stuff to her house. She invites us in. I sense some sort of psychic bond between her and AJ. He and she don't want to separate, but I gotta go, and I'm riding AJ back to the hotel on the rear of the bike. We say our goodbyes and head back on low tires. On a side note, years later, I heard from friends in Taiwan who had visited Nha Trang that Miss Move Your Ass had opened a very successful restaurant, which doesn't surprise me one bit. Anyway, there's no need for us to worry about dinner tonight. A few baguettes and we're set. Warner comes over to play cards, and we have one last party night in Nha Trang. The next morning, we're up when it's still dark, and it always hurts. It's unnatural. I'm reading this in my journal 30 years later, and it elicits a wry smile. I'm going on my 21st year at a job that requires a pre-dawn start. We have breakfast and settle our room bill and say goodbye to Jimmy. We have hired a minivan to Da Nang, split between 10. That's going to be us 4 plus Graham, Paul, Darren, Matt, Anita, and Lydia. If we leave by 6, we should get there by 8. The cost is 110,000 dong, about $100 US. Not bad, $10 each. We're all set to leave for Da Nang, but the driver of our minivan isn't here. He finally shows up at 7:30, and we decide to deduct 50,000 for his tardiness. He makes up for his tardiness with his slowness. No wonder this guy was an hour and a half late. He seems incapable of exceeding 30 kilometers an hour. We inch our way inexorably towards Da Nang. The redeeming quality of the drive is the beauty of the countryside. We're rewarded with ocean views, green mountain landscapes, and all sorts of unique perspectives around the bends in the bumpy road. We even get to blow a few doobies in the van. Classic. We stop for lunch in Bin Din and get mobbed. I'm almost adopted by this guy who has a brother, I think, in Boston running a kung fu academy. I get chicken fried rice at his restaurant. The toilet in this place is down a cliff-like set of stairs and over to a hole in the back porch overlooking the rice paddies. Typical. One of these days I'm going to write a book about toilets I have seen. We hop back in the van and change seats, then resume putt-putting through the countryside. I start to doze as it gets dark. We reach Da Nang at about 9:30 and guide our supposedly native driver to our hotel. He is truly hopeless. This hotel is full, but we have the desk clerk direct our driver to another one that has rooms, and he is somehow unable to comprehend. Seriously, this guy must have one brain cell or something. Finally, we get dropped off at the Da Nang Hotel, where we get a double room for $6, though they try for $7. We quickly settle in and grab dinner at a restaurant before they close. A Chateaubriand, which receives mixed reviews, and a surprisingly delicious plate of shrimp fritters. We feel lucky to get anything at 10:30 p.m. We repair to the room for a nightcap and some doobies and give AJ shit about his portrait. Once again, this unreliable narrator is at a loss as to why we gave AJ shit about his portrait or where AJ even got his portrait done. Sunday, February 23rd, we sleep in until after 11 and then go to the cafe across the street for a leisurely breakfast. Our French-speaking host is forgetful but kind, and the coffee is good. Afterwards, we ask to switch our rooms to get a fridge and a light which does not buzz, and then the 4 of us go out on the town. We walk down the riverside looking for the old U.S. consulate building, which was supposed to house the American War Crimes Museum, but it doesn't. It is a looted, bombed-out mess which should be condemned, but it is instead home to scores of people. We go to the market and buy a set of those funny little coffee filters, and then we visit the Cham Museum. This is excellent. The sculptures are beautifully restored and tastefully arranged. Too bad they're so harsh about photos. The art gallery in the rear has a painting that we really like called A Corner of Old Hanoi Town by Ngoc Min. They're asking $1.5 million dong for it. We'll see. Maybe we can get them to take a Visa card. Anyway, it's late, and believe it or not, we're tired and are slowly making our way back to the room, saying hello to all the friendly people. Such a change from Dalat and Saigon and Kanto. So many of these people clearly remember the Americans and like them and want them to come back. Often older people approach us and utter the first words of English they've spoken in 17 years. Wild. Most of the people have lived through hell for these 17 years too. Why on earth do we have a trade embargo against these people? We came back to the hotel and I try out my new coffee making method. We all have a shower and we emerge feeling refreshed and able to battle the Ciclo drivers. Nope, guess again. They want 10,000 dong to take us to the Tudo restaurant. Eventually they go down to 3,000 for there and back, but this is actually after we have already walked halfway there, literally with them following us. We walk. Screw them. One day they'll realize it is better to just take us for a fair price. The food is great and the Swedish guys are a riot. I wish I could tell you why. But we're very tired for some reason. We Ciclo back to the room for 4,000 dong and relax. The boys party until 3 a.m. Well, that's it for this episode. Part 2 is coming very soon. All I got to do is record that baby, and I will catch you the next time going down the road. Thanks a lot.